There are some truths that destroy you. Not slowly, not over time, but in a single moment that shatters everything you thought you knew about your life. This is the story of Rebecca, a 42-year-old woman from Charlotte, North Carolina, a devoted wife of 19 years, a mother of 2 teenage daughters, a woman who thought she knew her husband. But on a cold November morning in 2021, Rebecca's husband, Michael, died in a car accident. And 3 days later, at his funeral, a woman she'd never seen before walked up to the casket with 2 children who had Michael's eyes. If you're watching this while dealing with betrayal so deep you can't breathe, while grieving something you can't even name, while wondering if you'll ever trust anyone again, Rebecca's story is going to hurt, but it might also save you. Because what happened next is something she never saw coming. Rebecca met Michael when she was 23 years old at a church young adults group in Charlotte. He was 25, charming, ambitious, a pharmaceutical sales representative with big dreams and an easy smile that made everyone trust him. They dated for 2 years. He proposed on a beach in Rural Beach with a ring he'd saved for 6 months to buy. They got married in a small church ceremony with 150 people who all said they were the perfect couple. Their first daughter, Madison, was born a year later, then Emma, 2 years after that. Michael worked hard, really hard. He traveled a lot for work, sometimes 2 or 3 nights a week across North Carolina and South Carolina, visiting doctors' offices, building relationships, closing deals. The money was good. They bought a 4-bedroom house in a great school district, 2 cars, family vacations every summer. Rebecca stayed home with the girls when they were young, then worked part-time as an office manager at their church once both girls were in school. She handled the household, Michael handled the finances. That's just how they divided things. Every Sunday, they sat together in church, 4th row on the left, same spot for 15 years. Michael served as a deacon. Rebecca led the women's Bible study. Their girls were in youth group. They were the family everyone looked up to. People would say, "You two have such a strong marriage. What's your secret?" Rebecca would smile and say, "Communication, trust, faith." She believed that. She really did. Michael called her every night when he traveled. He FaceTimed the girls. He sent flowers on their anniversary every single year. 19 years, 19 bouquets. He kissed her every morning before leaving for work. He told her he loved her every single day. There were no warning signs, no suspicious behavior, no late-night texts, no unexplained expenses, or at least none that Rebecca saw, because Michael controlled all their bank accounts. He paid all the bills. He filed their taxes. He said it was just easier that way, since he was better with numbers. And Rebecca trusted him completely. On November 12th, 2021, at 6:47 in the morning, 2 police officers knocked on Rebecca's door. Michael had been driving home from a work trip to Columbia, South Carolina. A semi-truck crossed the center line on I-77. Michael died on impact. He was 44 years old. Rebecca collapsed. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what the officers were saying. Something about personal belongings, accident report, calling the funeral home. Madison was 17. Emma was 15. They both screamed when Rebecca told them, the kind of screaming that comes from somewhere deep and primal, when your world just ends. The next 3 days were a blur. Planning a funeral, choosing a casket, writing an obituary, calling Michael's parents, his brother, his co-workers, everyone crying, everyone saying, "He was such a good man, such a devoted husband and father. This is so tragic." The funeral was scheduled for Saturday, November 16th at their church. Rebecca picked out Michael's suit, the navy one he wore on their last anniversary. She wrote a eulogy she could barely read. She held her daughters as they sobbed. She felt like she was drowning, but she kept moving because that's what you do. You plan the funeral. You take care of your kids. You survive. She had no idea the nightmare was just beginning. Saturday morning, the church was packed. Over 300 people showed up. Rebecca sat in the front row with Madison and Emma on either side of her, both girls clutching her hands so tight it hurt. Michael's parents sat next to them. His brother gave a eulogy about what an amazing man Michael was. The casket was open for viewing before the service started. People filed by, crying, saying their goodbyes. And then Rebecca saw her. A woman, maybe 38, 39 years old, with dark hair and a black dress, standing at the casket, sobbing, really sobbing, the kind of grief that looks like it's going to break someone. Rebecca didn't recognize her. Maybe a coworker, she thought. Michael knew a lot of people. But then the woman turned around, and Rebecca saw the two children standing behind her. A boy, maybe 12 years old. A girl, maybe 9. Both of them crying. Both of them with Michael's eyes, Michael's nose, Michael's smile. Rebecca felt something crack inside her chest. The woman walked toward Rebecca. Her face was red, streaked with tears. She looked confused, lost. "You're Rebecca," the woman said quietly. "Yes," Rebecca whispered. Who are you?" The woman's face crumpled. "I'm Sarah. I'm Michael's partner. This is our son, Jacob, and our daughter, Lily." The room tilted. Rebecca heard the words, but they didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. "What?" Rebecca's voice came out broken, barely audible. Sarah looked at her with this horrible mix of grief and guilt and shock. "I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know until yesterday. His brother called me about the accident, and I asked when the funeral was, and he said, Rebecca is planning it. And I said, who's Rebecca? And he said, Michael's wife." The word wife hung in the air like poison. "I've been with Michael for 13 years, Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We have 2 kids. We live in Colombia. I thought he was my wife. He told me he was divorced. He showed me divorce papers. Rebecca couldn't hear anymore. The room was spinning. People were staring. Madison was asking, Mom, what's happening?" But Rebecca couldn't answer because she couldn't breathe. She stood up, walked out of the sanctuary, through the lobby, out into the cold November air, and she vomited in the bushes outside the church. The funeral continued without her. Michael's brother took over. Someone took care of the girls. Rebecca sat in her car in the parking lot, shaking so hard she thought she might shatter. Michael had another family. For 13 years. 2 children she didn't know existed. A whole other life. How? How does someone do that? 2 nights a week traveling for work, sometimes 3? He was in Colombia, with Sarah, with his other kids, living a completely separate life while Rebecca made him dinner, did his laundry, raised his daughters, believed his lies. 19 years of marriage. All of it, what, a part-time arrangement? That night, Rebecca went through everything. Michael's phone. The police had returned his personal belongings. She knew his passcode. He'd never hidden it because he never thought he'd die. She found text messages, thousands of them. "I love you, miss you, can't wait to see you this weekend." Photos of Sarah, photos of Jacob and Lily, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, school events. A whole life documented on a phone Rebecca had access to the entire time, but never checked because she trusted him. She found a second email account, a second bank account she didn't know about. credit cards in his name only. He was paying a mortgage on a house in Colombia, Sarah's house, their house. He had photos of Jacob's Little League games, Lily's dance recitals. He was living 2 complete lives, and he'd been doing it for 13 years. Rebecca called Michael's life insurance company on Monday morning. The policy was for $750,000. It was supposed to take care of her and the girls. But there was a problem. Michael had changed the beneficiary 6 months earlier. 50% to Rebecca and the girls, 50% to Sarah and her children. The insurance agent asked, "Ma'am, are you aware of the other beneficiaries?" Rebecca hung up. Then she called the bank. Their joint checking account had $3,400 in it. That's it. Their savings account, the one Michael always said had plenty saved for emergencies, had $890. The house had a mortgage with $287,000 still owed. Michael had refinanced it twice without telling her, pulling out equity. She didn't know where that money went. The cars were both financed. Michael's credit cards, the ones she didn't know about, had combined balances of over $68,000. Michael's 401k? He'd listed Sarah as the beneficiary. Rebecca did the math. After the funeral expenses, after splitting the insurance, after the debts, she was going to lose the house, the cars, everything. Michael had spent 19 years building a life with her while simultaneously bleeding their finances dry to support a second family. And now he was dead, and Sarah was grieving the same man, and Rebecca didn't even know who she'd been married to. 2 weeks after the funeral, Rebecca sat in her bedroom at 3 in the morning with a bottle of sleeping pills in her hand. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours a night since Michael died, since she found out, since her entire life revealed itself to be a lie. Madison and Emma were asleep down the hall. They were asking questions Rebecca couldn't answer. Did Dad love us? Was our whole family fake? Why would he do this? Rebecca didn't know. She didn't know anything anymore. Everyone at church had stopped calling. The story had gotten out. Small town, big scandal. People didn't know what to say, so they said nothing. Michael's parents blamed Rebecca, said she must have driven him to it somehow. They sided with Sarah, said those kids needed their grandfather. Rebecca's own parents were in Florida, retired, and kept saying, "Just forgive him and move on," like that was possible. She was 42 years old, no full-time job, no savings, about to lose her house, raising 2 traumatized teenagers alone, and grieving a man who never actually existed. She looked at the pills. It would be so easy. Just go to sleep and not wake up. Let someone else deal with the mess. Let the girls go live with Michael's parents or her parents, or someone who wasn't this broken. She opened the bottle, and then she heard Emma crying in her room down the hall. That soft, heartbroken sobbing of a 15-year-old girl who just lost her dad and doesn't understand why the world is so cruel. Rebecca closed the pill bottle. She walked to Emma's room, crawled into bed next to her daughter, held her while she cried. And something inside Rebecca shifted. Not broke, shifted. She couldn't give up, because these girls didn't ask for any of this, and they needed their mother, even if their mother was shattered into 1,000 pieces. The next morning, Rebecca drove to the church. Not her church, the one where everyone knew and judged, a different church, a little non-denominational place she'd passed 100 times but never entered. She walked in. It was empty except for one older woman watering plants near the altar. Rebecca sat in the back pew, and she prayed the angriest prayer of her life. God, I don't even know if I believe in you anymore. I did everything right. I went to church, I was faithful, I trusted my husband, I raised my kids in the faith, And you let this happen. You let me live a lie for 19 years. You let a man deceive me, betray me, destroy me, and then you took him before I could even get answers. I have 2 daughters who are broken. I'm about to lose everything. I don't even know who I am anymore because my entire adult life was built on lies. I'm so angry I can't see straight. I'm so hurt I can barely breathe, and I don't know how to survive this. But I'm here. I don't know why, but I'm here. If you're real, if you actually care, I need you to show me how to do this because I can't do it alone. I can't forgive him. I can't move on. I can't even function, but I'm still here. So either help me or let me know this was all for nothing. She sat there crying for an hour. The older woman never approached her, just let her be. When Rebecca finally left, she didn't feel better, but she felt something, a tiny spark. Not hope, not peace, just the faintest whisper that maybe she wouldn't always feel this destroyed. Rebecca didn't get a miracle. She had to sell the house. She and the girls moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. She got a full-time job as an office manager at a medical practice. The pay was modest, but steady. She filed for bankruptcy to clear Michael's debts he created, debts that weren't hers but became hers when he died. She started seeing a Christian counselor who specialized in betrayal trauma. It took 8 months before Rebecca could talk about Michael without wanting to scream. She joined a support group for widows, then realized she needed a different support group for women betrayed by infidelity. She was both. The grief was complicated. Sarah reached out once, 6 months after the funeral. She wanted to talk, wanted to explain, wanted something. Rebecca told her no. Not out of hatred, just out of survival. She couldn't carry Sarah's grief, too. She barely had a room for her own. The girls struggled. Madison started therapy. Emma withdrew for over a year. They both had to process losing their dad and learning he wasn't who they thought. It took 3 years before Rebecca could say Michael's name without feeling like she was going to break. And somewhere in that time, slowly, painfully, Rebecca started to rebuild. Not the life she had, that life was gone. A different life, a smaller life, a life built on truth instead of illusion. She started going to that little church where she prayed the angry prayer. The people there didn't know her story, didn't judge, just welcomed her. She learned what forgiveness actually means. Not pretending it didn't happen, not saying it was okay, but releasing the poison so it didn't destroy her too. She learned that you can grieve someone and hate what they did at the same time. She learned that her worth wasn't determined by whether a man honored his vows. And most importantly, she learned that surviving something this dark doesn't make you weak. It makes you a warrior. Rebecca's story isn't about a happy ending. 4 years later, she's still healing, still dealing with trust issues, still working through trauma. But she's alive. Her daughters are in college now. They're healing too. She's not the woman she was before Michael died. That woman is gone. But she's someone stronger, someone who knows her own resilience, someone who found God not in the blessing, but in the breaking. She learned that sometimes the worst betrayal reveals the deepest truth. You are stronger than you ever knew. And she learned that faith isn't pretending everything is fine. Faith is showing up broken and saying, I'm still here, even when you don't know why. If you're in a place right now where someone's betrayal has destroyed you, where you found out your life was a lie, where you can't imagine surviving this, Rebecca wants you to know you will survive. Not because it doesn't hurt, it does, unbearably, but because you're stronger than the lie, stronger than the betrayal, stronger than the person who broke you. Sometimes the fire doesn't refine you gently. Sometimes it burns everything to ash, and you have to rebuild from nothing. But you can rebuild, and you will. This story was inspired by real testimonies from women who've walked through devastating betrayal and discovered their own unbreakable strength. If Rebecca's story resonated with you today, we'd love for you to subscribe to Faith Through Fire. Every week, we share stories like this, raw, real, and honest. And if you're facing your own impossible betrayal right now, leave a comment below. This community sees you. We're here for you. Remember, when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. Even when it feels like you're already ash, God's got you, and you're stronger than you know.